I want to bring something hot to your attention. A sexy global trend that has always been on the rise. A trend that can only be described as hot to the touch, smoldering, and even pure fire. No hose of water can possibly put this out. It's happening in Australia, Europe, and even North America, and it doesn't seem like we can escape. And I mean, look at these guys. Do we even want to? Throughout most of history, firefighters have been a no-brainer. When the living room candle lit our house on fire, we needed absolutely everyone to come together so we could protect our family and property. When those candles kept burning down our cities, it made sense to hire some pros. Today, it's just not that necessary. You probably see firefighters as the highly trained, professional, and respected societal members that they are, and so does your city. It is most likely spending hundreds of millions of dollars to ensure they have everything they want. Well, here's why we should rethink how we spend some of that money.
Good morning. You guys are in for a treat because today I'm going to take you through the life of a firefighter. It's pretty intense.
I want you to take a guess on how often you think a firefighter will actually fight a fire. It's once every 22 days. Today, the fire emergencies you have seen in movies are incredibly rare, and even structure fires are few and far between. So how can a modern firefighter expect to spend the majority of their time? Much of that time is spent in a daily routine of maintaining equipment, cleaning and washing your station, and then you wait. And you wait. And well, you barbecue, work out, and then you wait.
It's not an exciting day at Station 5. Hello.
Firefighters understand they must branch out to cover other demands, as actual working fires now make up only about 5% of the calls they will respond to in their career. As a quick sidebar, can we think of any other profession that is so revered it has received its own calendar and genre of porn, despite only doing that job once every 22 days? Anyways, I digress. Modern fire departments have been evolving in a careful plan to remain relevant. Since firefighters are unlikely to be called out for,
"Oh Lord Jesus, it's a fire,"
they've instead found work responding for the calls of pre-hospital medicine. In no time at all, these were dwarfing any other aspect of their job. So wait, what's going on here? This calendar tells me that this puppy-loving Adonis is a firefighter. The truth is, these beefcakes spend most of their time doing the job of, or assisting, a paramedic. Coincidentally, just like the demand to fight fires, this work is also becoming mostly redundant. Studies on the subject found that firefighters might typically arrive on the scene a minute or two before dedicated medical personnel. And only in 1 or 2% of these instances did firefighters improve health outcomes of the patient. On the whole, they had much less training and responded no quicker than the paramedics. So what gives? Then why don't we have sexy medic calendars? As someone who chose a career in pre-hospital medicine, I am often left wondering why so much attention and budget is given to firefighters, while the emergency medical services look like they are operating out of their mom's garage. The truth behind all of this is simple. Thanks to improved building codes, materials, and suppression systems, we are having fewer fires every year. If you mix in a little bit of government regulation and a healthy ingrained awareness of fire safety, then we are slowly extinguishing the need for dedicated firefighters. Now, you might expect budgetary spending to decrease as a result, but luckily for the fire community, they can still rely on their lofty and well-earned history, their presentation in film and media, and a great public relations department. This has not only kept them going, but has increased their numbers and bloated their budget to new records. The Fraser Institute found that spending on fire services is now growing exponentially despite fewer fires to fight. From 1997 to 2012, the number of fires fell by 41%, while the number of firefighters increased by 36%. During this period of time, the call volume for non-fire related calls increased by 24%. I encourage you to look up the annual fire report where you live and compare the numbers yourself. Despite this, fire departments have not been idle. They can see the same trends. Instead of resting on their laurels, they have been increasing the level of medical training they require for new recruits. They are continuing to lean further into the industry, often competing with healthcare providers to become the local first aid and EMR instructors. In a great show of adaptation, departments are evolving their personnel to fill local community needs such as building inspectors and public educators. Departments also state a large justification for their budgetary increases are for wildfires, and this has some merit. Fancy planes don't come cheap after all. But even here, these roles are increasingly being filled by private safety companies and seasonal workers. In many cases, this comes from separate funding, and only small teams of dedicated firefighters are needed to contribute. At this point, let me put your possible career as a firefighter into perspective. Depending on location, you can expect to respond to one structure fire for every 44 medical calls, and at nearly every one of those calls, EMS will arrive on scene at roughly the same time to do the same job, but with a higher level of training. This leads us to ask the fiery question, should we continue to increase spending on fire, and is it simply to shape fire departments into another national medical service? The U.S. administration doesn't seem to think so. President Trump's 2020 budget has slashed millions in funding. The U.S. Fire Administration fired back that this decision could cost lives. But as I discussed earlier, if EMS is in the area to be dispatched, then this isn't backed up by any data I could find. They may be broadly referring to rural locations, some of which are too small to support both EMS and fire. Instead, they choose to blend both services into one. Here, the vast majority of responders are volunteer, and in these areas it makes sense to combine both responders under one roof. Many larger fire services see this as a solution, and in urban centers have also begun integration to provide joint fire paramedic services. Although, this has angered some old dog EMS, who see their budget threatened at a time when their services are in high demand, while their infrastructure and personnel require attention. The case can be made that fire and its many services and specialities already bring an individual to their maximum sustainable level of training, but many services recognize this and have begun placing dedicated paramedics in their station. After reading about the successes and failures of joint integration, I think this is a practical way to go for the future. Despite several pockets of resistance on both sides, the vast majority of fire departments see the trends and welcome the challenge. Now, if only we can get the unions on board. It's clear to me that no matter how low the frequency, through man or nature, we are still going to have fires in the foreseeable future, and we will want a pro there to safeguard our property. The fire profession is not dying, it is evolving. Popular movements today are calling for a shift of funds out of budgets that include the military and police to areas in greater need or demand, and in this way I am calling for something similar. I don't care what you call this new combined service, as long as the training remains relevant and the level of care remains high. Actually, if it's easier, let's just move in with them. Fire already has the amazing stations full of puppies. I think there needs to be more research in this debate first, but I believe this will make us more effective, more cost-efficient, and yes, probably a little less sexy.
I don't want my camera to break.
I appreciate your time, guys. Let me know what you think below about this controversial subject and check out my other videos for similar content. Have a good day.